Good morning, Albertans. This is generally for every Albertan, and there's stuff here for Canadians. A lot of people have reached out about Bill 32 by our provincial UCP government, a massive act to change the labor code and labor relations. I'm going to get into that. I went through all 168 pages, through every section, every amendment, every stricken from the record, every clause removed and replaced. So it took many hours this week, and I'm going to go through that. But first, we have to start at the beginning, which is pretty serious. It's been overlooked by media, and that is the decision by the federal justice, and that was Anne MacDonald, who just 2 weeks ago now, and like I said, not much of it said in the media, very few articles. She made a decision on the safe third party agreement for asylum seekers, which was specifically Canada and USA. So we've really breached that agreement. It's been ruled. It's not an agreement anymore. It's unconstitutional. So now, when asylum seekers who've jumped immigration in the USA come to Canada, regardless of charges pending in the USA for court action, people rejected through refugee trying to claim status, failed in all their attempts. It's now illegal federally for Canada to send those people back to the USA to be sent back to the country of origin, but first go through that court process. Last year we took 12,600 and approved them, even though they were rejected in the USA and were actually supposed to be in court in the USA. Canada took those people in. This Justice MacDonald is saying that it's unconstitutional because it's against the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms was created, drafted in the nation of Canada for Canadian citizens. This must be challenged in the Supreme Court of Canada because there are another 50,000 to be processed yet. And if we can't send them back to the USA because it's being said that it's unconstitutional because their safety's at risk in the USA, I don't agree. I don't think that we should be messing around with the United States of America on immigration. I think Canada should respect our neighbors. That being said, this is a big can of worms. I think the People's Party of Canada, you want to stand out, I recommend that you challenge this to the Supreme Court. Find a constitutional lawyer who will take that for you. So and there's a lot of conservative MPs who fought this stuff as well. It's time to find out, are you really a conservative or are you on the globalist agenda? Because this is detrimental to Canada. It's a Trudeau loving policy that is the post national state where we're not a country anymore. It's against the UN Declaration of Human Rights. It's also against the primary function of any nation, the UN, the first fundamental law. That's the law of sovereignty. So we are really giving up our sovereignty. Anne MacDonald, Justice Anne MacDonald, improperly applied the Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for non-citizens of Canada who are basically international citizens trying to jump our immigration system. And it's wrong on so many levels. It really is a detriment to those seeking legal immigration status following the rules. It's disgusting. 12,600 were already approved last year. Now it's going to be something like anywhere from 60 to 75,000 a year. Could go up to 100,000 once it becomes established that Canada doesn't have a system to cope with that illegal, asylum seeker. So, and a lot of these people have criminal charges from the States. Their system isn't unlike ours in justice. I don't think we want people who have criminal records in the States, who didn't respect the law, didn't respect immigration, coming here and planting in Canada, and it's not safe to send them back to the USA because they'll be prosecuted for crimes committed in the USA. That's one thing. So that is going to lead into Bill 32 here in Alberta, which is 168 pages, everybody. And how that's going to apply to the first part I'll get to in a minute, but I'm going to go through that. So Jason Kenney's UCP government, obviously, I went through 168 pages, okay? Many amendments stricken from the record, a total gut. This act is a gutting and a re-implementation, well, some re-implementations and a whole bunch of brand new stuff. That a lot of it I do like. There's a lot I do like in the union side. Nothing I like about the labor code. It's a real detriment to the good people of Alberta. I'm literally disgusted with that portion of the labor code. It really, they talk about person, they don't specify what person that is. When I say person, is it a Canadian citizen? Is it a non-resident? Is it a non-Canadian citizen? Is it a temporary foreign worker? There are all kinds of employer powers placed in that really have nothing to do with the citizen of Canada. It's a gross abuse of Joe Jane Albertan for sure. You know, other provinces or employers allowed to bring in anybody from anywhere. And remember, Albertans were at the highest level of unemployment not seen since the Great Depression. Edmonton, the city I live in currently, 15.6% unemployment, is 4 times world law standards established by the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Russia, China, and France, ratified worldwide. It is a gross human rights violation to just allow these kind of labor policies to go in. Much of it's unconstitutional in Canada. It's definitely, when you look at world law, it's definitely against world law. It's against our allies and those powers. Now, China, yes, they would embrace this, which is really troublesome. It seems like these labor code policies to me, and I'm sure a lot of people can read through this, and you'll find that it really is like, UCP's trying to embrace the EU and the policies of the EU that UK walked away from in their separate, they want that power back as the United Kingdom as a world binding five. They want their veto power unrestricted. And it just seems that now all of a sudden Jason Kenney and his UCP are going to take labor to an EU standard. It's very liberal. It's very socialist. I don't understand it, especially with these unemployment numbers. I don't like Jason Kenney's immigration policies. I don't like Justin Trudeau's immigration policies. These ratified, federal decisions just made with Jason Kenney's approved and passed global powers of immigration that he really triumphed for UCP. That wasn't in their platform. It's what he produced. It's definitely a globalist cookie taken from that, which is very liberal, very liberal. The Democrats really like it. The EU really likes it. It takes the power of the people of the region, tears it up, and makes it a post-national state, right? And Canada really embraces that with the Liberal Party, especially the Liberal Party. Many conservatives are doing that. The People's Party, not so much. Obviously, separatists here in Alberta are not for that. I'm just disgusted with that portion. That's your labor standard. Those not in the union, those just trying to make a living, right? They take away all kinds of powers, take away all kinds of overtime. It's brutal, very brutal. Gives a lot of power. When they say employer, they do not specify domestic or foreign. So your big foreign nationals have tremendous power. This gives China legal authority over us. Saudi Arabia, same thing, which has invested heavy now in Alberta's oil sands. Completely opposite what Jason Kenney was promoting just months ago. And, his pants were pulled down there. and these are liberal policies the liberals really love federally. If you were to give Justin Trudeau power over a province, which isn't his constitutional power, it's like Jason Kenney said, hey, don't worry, Justin. I'm going to put all these things in just for you. So that's really troubling for me. So it's really troublesome. Now we're going to get into the labor relation amendments. There's a lot of great things for just union members there, contrary to what you're going to hear from public sector and some private sector unions. They don't like it, but it really does put accountability in the government. To their credit, this committee, there's some powers there for the union guy and holding their union hall accountable and getting permissions from each union member of what their dues are going towards. That's great. I think some of that's really great. On the other side of that, there's a whole bunch of unconstitutional in Canada things placed in there where I don't think Jason Kenney and a lot of the UCP had a hand in. It's interesting what committee members were putting into this because it's a lot of liberal stuff there, and I think it's been guised, but I just can't see Jason Kenney as such a federalist. I can't see him trying to strip that away, when it's unconstitutional. You're going to lose, right? And it really does divide. So there's a whole bunch that is completely unconstitutional. It's completely against the Republican Party, specifically with this new USMCA. So maybe Jason did do that. Maybe it is an attack on Donald Trump. But then the Democrats have placed a whole bunch in the new USMCA trade agreement, specifically Canada, USA, and specifically Alberta. 86% of our trade north and south with the USA, we're really bound to this. So there's some major breaches in there, and this shows real incompetence. They're clear. They're clear. And I'm not going to go through those sections because I want to have a meeting with my specific union, and I want to have that meeting first before I go into that with the public, because I want to get our edge up too, right? Things that we need to know. And it's not that I'm hiding, but it's government, you guys. Doesn't matter individual or organization. You always want to, when the government's doing something they shouldn't be, you want to get on top of that, especially if it's to your benefit. And that's something for me and where I'm at in my working life. So there's something I have to do first before I get into some of these. But Section 74.1, to UCP's credit, it puts a lot of accountability on the minister. And I don't know if UCP intentionally did that or if it's somebody on the committee that wanted to put that accountability, but it really puts accountability on the minister. So, like I said, there are so many unconstitutional clauses here. The minister is going to be in some trouble. That's 74.1. Lawyers, check that out. Wow. Labor organizations, individuals, 74.1 puts accountability. So that's interesting because there's many clauses throughout the act that are going to have to be repealed. I mean, and UCP kind of puts that in the end. They give the lieutenant governor in council the authority to amend anything in the act. So maybe that accountability isn't really there because they put that at the very end, or somebody else slipped that in so that they can amend it before the minister could be held to account. So there's that. It looks like a lot of this stuff's going to end up in court, both by unions, by individuals. There's a lot of powers for employers, seemingly, but they don't specify which employers. A lot of employers say, hey, I love all this stuff, but do you really love it when the global company can come in and usurp you now and they can move their labor? It's seemingly throughout the world here. Like after October, it sounds like there's going to be a lift on flights. People always want things, but they don't look at the big world picture. It is going to hurt Albertans. It is definitely going to hurt Albertans in the non-union for sure. And just how much foreign labor can be moved, just like the EU. I don't like it. I don't like it for both unions or non-union. It's really hard on Albertans, especially in such a massive unemployment rate, which is illegal worldwide. Governments are not to have this kind of stuff. It's what led to World War II. It really did. And it's the basis. And I don't think the government they don't realize what's going to come of everything when they think we're going to take all this onto our plate. We're going to strip all these organizations and then we're going to make a bigger government, which is really liberal, which surprises me. It's not right. But yeah, we're going to see. I gotta flip the page because I want to make sure I get this. I went into Bill 32. Oh, yeah. Section 84, picketing. That's unconstitutional. That's something I was just involved in. UCP wants to make that unlawful pretty much or get permission and rules set up. Governments are not to get into the business of inciting violence or getting in the way of people enacting their rights, especially when there's human rights violations here. So UCP, they've gone way above and beyond what they're allowed to do in the world, and the U.S. is going to spank them on this. There's a rat number by the Republicans enforced by the Democrats. They both jointly made this, and it's really important to them with Canada and USA relations, specifically if you try to scab on American companies. And I'm going to get into that more, but we're going to do another video on that down the road. I'm going to have my meeting first with my group, and I'm going to present this, and then I'll make it public. But I think UCP's bit off more than they can chew, and the federal government is going to have no choice but to step in, whether that was conservative or liberal, because the pressures from the USA are really going to hit home here. I want to talk about economics, and this is really important for people too, and specifically taxes. We're going to start with Canadian Taxpayers Association, the World Taxpayers Federation. They're all one group together. Let's talk about taxes first and the importance of taxes. We know that services come from taxes. Governments put in taxes. Now, if you're going to strip wages, overtime provisions, we're going to get into lowering interest rates at these obscene unemployment rates. I'm going to tell you right now, the lower the interest rates for term borrowing in the country, which Canada were super low, USA super low, there's a detriment to all pensions, all major investments. And that is that when you have a super low interest rate, your pensions get hit. There's no return on your investment. Your pensions go down. People are going to lose their shirts. So we're all going to see significant losses in our investments and pensions over the next foreseeable future years. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. This is in real economics. People lose their pensions. Public or private sector people are going to lose their pensions. They're going to get cut quite a bit. Just like '09, it's going to get crushed quite a bit more. I don't think there's any economist that can argue otherwise. Taxes. If we're going to lower wages, we're going to take away all this overtime from the non-union in labor code, which is basically anyone not covered by a union agreement. We're going to cut into the union agreements. We're going to say that there's all kinds of things employers get to do, whether they're global or domestic. And we're going to chop all that down. And we have these super low corporate tax rates. Where are the taxes coming from to fund all our services, which are going to have to be cut to third world standards? That's apparent. Next, we're going to get into world laws and why they came to be after World War II. And this is specifically, again, for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation and World Taxpayers Federation. If you're going to have these insane unemployment rates, which are deemed world illegal, we were never to have, according to the Declaration of Human Rights and the rules set up by the 5 powers that run the world, we were never to have unemployment rates to this magnitude. Donald Trump was just fighting those. He kept his unemployment rate under 4%, giving a world example. A lot of people are running them down. If people are working, taxes take care of themselves because the people get hit with the taxes. Go ahead, do a job, cut taxes for corporate, but corporate pays employees. Employees are all working, they pay taxes. This is how you get your country back in line. You don't get your country ever back in line with super immense unemployment rates. It leads to massive violence. It leads to world wars. That is the fundamental reason why we had world wars. Borrowing, we're going to get into public debt now that no economist worldwide can argue this. And specifically for all Canadians and Albertans, public debt. What is public debt? Public debt is your government borrowing money worldwide, devaluing. The more you borrow publicly, the more public debt we take on against the people, whether it's domestic or foreign. The more public debt you have, the less value your citizens are on the world stage comparatively to the world. That means you're worth less, and every generation must hold on to less. As you increase public debt, your value on the world stage continues to go down. You're worth less. Everything you produce, you have to produce more to pay the public debt. Okay? More public debt, less value the citizen. And you're passing it on to your children. So easy economics, public debt high, your children are worth less. Every generation is worth less. The longer you live, the less you are worth. Every citizen, regardless of their wealth status. In Canada, you hear the term household and corporate debt. In Canada, all household and corporate debt can be transferred legally to public debt. You can go bankrupt personally, you can go bankrupt corporately. It all goes into the public debt ultimately. You have to raise more taxes to pay the public debt. Okay? More taxes, less value, more public debt, less value citizen on the world stage. This is where we are going. Your children are worth less. Your pensions, the lower the interest rate in your country, the term borrowing, lower, all sources, pension and investment goes down. The return on investment is low to the point you're not making the return on investment to cover the cost of living. We're going down the toilet. This was explained very, very detailedly over the last 3 years, and here we are today at an immense unemployment rate not seen since the Great Depression. We're at an immense take-on of public debt, record amount of corporate and household debt thrown onto the public debt, with super low-term borrowing that means all your investment domestically is not returning to keep up with the rate of inflation. We are going down, down, down. This was made illegal post-World War II. Countries everywhere in the world are to not have an unemployment rate exceed 4%. That is outlined very clearly by 5 world powers. We are not to have employment, at that number, but we're all supposed to have gainful employment. If you're not gainfully employed, running a business and having a great return on your investment of your energy and resources to drive a product that you can sell, if you can't do that in your country, your government is flawed. Rachel Notley, NDP in Alberta, complete failure. Conservatives before that began the failure. There has only been, and post now, we're an extreme failure. Liberals, extreme failure. We are fundamentally broken as a country. We have no ability to see ourselves through this because we keep transferring the power of the people to a global elite. This is reality. This is where we're going as a country. There were laws put in place since 1948 that protected against this with all kinds of tools. We had legislation and, for the most part, a constitution that covered this. We've seen our federal courts at the highest level start translating our Constitution, setting precedents, governments appointing judges, appointing all kinds of committees, civil societies, which have grown our governments to a whopping size, way beyond the size they're supposed to be. All the political parties are involved in it that are mainstream, that are getting funding, that are backed by civil societies they created over the last umpteen years. It has got to a point now we are no longer in the realm of reality, not since World War II. That means that we are on the verge of going into a revolution, or worse, hitting a World War III. This is where we are heading. It's all been talked about for years and years, and I don't know why everybody wants to continue on this path.